I don't feel like twerking is the best representation of modern day ethnic dance. Yeah, that moment just jumped right out at me like, no. Of all the things you can show to represent the evolution of music and dance in different cultures, twerking's not one of the best. Okay, I digress. This is a review for the movie Sinners, directed by Ryan Coogler and starring Michael B. Jordan in dual roles as twin brothers. I'm going to dive right into the positives. Well, I'm gonna start off with a little bit of a negative. I really wish we had not known what the main characters were up against in this story. I did not watch all of the trailers for it. I just got bits and pieces, but from what I understand, one of the later trailers revealed what was going on. So it's vampires. I knew there was something supernatural about it, but I wasn't sure. It's vampires. I like vamp stories, so it was going to be a no-brainer anyway for me that I was interested in this. I already was, just because of the supernatural element, but I really would have liked to have been surprised as to what was really happening. That's not really a complaint with the movie. That's more of a complaint with the way it was marketed in the trailers. Same sort of complaint I had with Abigail. So this film takes place in 1936. It's very much a period piece. I think the state it's in is Louisiana. I can't remember for sure, but it's down south. It's down south, real south. And it tells the story of these twin brothers that come back home, come back to that area after having been away for many years in Chicago. And you find out as the intro is going on, you find out a little bit of their backstory, why they left, why they came back, what they were involved in when they were up in Chicago. So you get a sense about these guys that they're not necessarily walking the straight and narrow. They come to town and they gather together a bunch of people to help them throw this party at this some type of barn place that they bought because they want to set up shop and business there, have routine dances and entertainment there. That was my perception of what was going on. And they cobble together people to, help with the cooking, to help make the signs, to help play the music. So throughout the course of, let's say, the first 45-ish minutes to an hour, or let's say the first solid 43 to 45 minutes, you are introduced to the characters, all the different main characters, or let's say the main characters plus all the different side characters that are going to be involved in this main story. So this film takes its time. It's a rather lengthy movie. It didn't feel lengthy, like I wasn't bored or anything like that, but the point I'm trying to make is that it takes its time. It takes its sweet ass time getting to where you even find out about vamps. The vamps don't make an appearance until about the 45-minute mark, 43 to 45 minutes. And even then, it's a bit longer before the rest of the characters realize what's going on, what they're up against. So it's a slow-paced, period piece, horror, thriller, drama. I call it a drama because we do really get a good grasp or feel for most of the characters. Well, pretty much all of them, but most of them, the main circle of people. And I felt like they did a really good job of presenting them to us, understanding the dynamics between all the characters, understanding the dynamic between the two brothers specifically, and seeing their very different personalities. Michael B. Jordan does a great job playing these two roles. I feel like everyone was solid in here. I didn't really have an issue with any of the acting. I thought the cinematography was very good and the direction was pretty solid as well. I do have some issues that stood out at me in the final act, or the last, well, basically the climax of the story, the final showdown that was going on. And I'll touch on that as I continue. But another thing that I appreciated about this film was how it stays true to vampire lore as we know it, or as most people know it. Let's say all the basics, things like garlic and sunlight and stakes and things like that, and the rules on whether or not a vampire can enter a premises with permission. So I liked all of that. I also liked that we get a pretty decent grasp on the head vampire guy. Like, he's not just some raving monster that comes and just kills without, with abandon or whatever. We actually see him as a person, as a character that has a backstory and is a little nuanced. So, I mean, obviously he's a monster, so, he's no good, but we are given a taste of his humanity, or what was left over of his humanity from before he became what he is. So I thought that was done pretty well. I also liked how the time was woven into this story, the time frame, was woven into the story, 1936, Deep South. We all know the situation that it was. So it was woven into there. It was part of the backdrop. It was part of the story, but it didn't feel like it was anything that was specific messaging or divisive messaging. I mean, I didn't take it that way. I didn't take these sorts of things in here that way because of the time period that it took place in. And I have indicated in previous reviews, I get so tired of this narrative. It's just like, it's been overdone, the white devil, bad white people, the KKK, and all this. It's a stale storyline to me. However, for purposes of this film, I felt like it was done pretty well. It was woven together in a way that felt organic and natural, and not necessarily like something that was antagonistic just for the sake of it, if that makes any sense. I liked the storylines that were created for the brothers and also for the people that they had connections with in their hometown. There are 2 love interests that are shown to us for each of the brothers. We get their backstory. One particular storyline with one of the brothers I found quite touching. Pretty sad, actually. The other storyline was the one that involved the actor Haley, whatever her name is. Not super fond of her, but you guys know who I'm talking about. She was in Bumblebee. That one was okay. I didn't feel like it had as much depth and emotion to it as the storyline involving the other brother and his love interest. Maybe you'll know what I mean when you watch it. Some other things that I want to mention, there are 2 scenes that happen after the story is done. I had looked this up, so I did stick around till the very end to watch these scenes. One of the scenes is a mid-credit scene. Like, they show stuff during the credits, but then that stops, and then a little bit after that, we get a full-blown mid-credit scene, and it lasts a good bit, you guys. It's probably one of the longest mid-credits or post-credit scenes I've ever seen. So I thought that was pretty impressive. It is important to the story, so I do highly suggest hanging around, at least for that one. There was another scene at the very, very end that was described as like an Easter egg for those of you who were paying attention during the story. The only thing that I picked up on was the song, but I honestly couldn't remember when that song had happened previously. So maybe when I rewatch it, that scene at the very end will make it will click a little bit more for me. This movie is very heavily rooted in song. The reason for my opening comment is because there is a scene that happens when the dance and all of it is fully underway. And the main character, Michael B. Jordan plays 2 of the main characters, but there is another guy who plays their cousin, and he's also the main character because this story does revolve a lot around him. There's a scene where he's performing for the crowd, and it's showing the transformative nature, how it can bring the ancestors back in a sense, spiritually, and also talent from future generations can be kind of brought into the fold. And so it's showing these different people or influences from the past and from the future, revolving around, like, let's say, Black music, Black dance, and then also they had a Chinese, I think they were Chinese couple that was there, so it was showing like their ancestors who'd been involved in music and dance and their future generations and things like that. And at one point, they circle around and they're showing this chick twerking, and I'm like, that should have been left out. That's not something to be proud of, in my opinion. I hate it with a passion. It looks absolutely ridiculous, as I've said before. That's not a con to the movie, just to let you guys know. The things that were cons for me, and I'm going to go ahead and start to dive into that now. One was kind of a technical thing, and I don't know if this was an issue with the theater or if this is actually an issue with like the sound in the movie. The score overpowered the dialogue a lot of times. It was a little frustrating because I found myself having to strain to make sure I could catch what was being said, and sometimes I couldn't, just because the score was a notch too high. Should have been brought down a tad. So that's a con. But like I said, I don't know if that's a thing with the theater speaker system or if it's actually with the movie. If you guys have seen it, tell me if you had any issues like that, because that was just really something that stuck out to me. Another con that I had was, and really the main issues that I have with this film, like I said, happened in the final showdown. So I have to be vague in order to avoid spoilers. So let me think about how to word this. There is a moment where the vamps are converging. And the way that moment started, what triggered that felt not very well fleshed out for me. They sort of tried to explain, but then when it happened, I felt like it was pretty stupid because numbers weren't on the side of the living. I'll just say that. There should have been a little bit more of a game plan than what ended up happening. So that was kind of a problem. Then there's another moment where the vamps and humans are fighting. There's an altercation that happens. However, the living are still outnumbered pretty easily. I mean, vamps are supposed to be powerful and they can't easily be killed. So this altercation happens and two of the vamps, they run off. Like, let's get out of here. And then they run off. They take off. And these are vamps that are pretty significant. So it's not like they're just like little side nobody character vamps. So when that happened, that was like, well, that makes absolutely no sense at all. There's another moment where a vamp and a human are fighting, and given what a vamp is and that they're more powerful than a human because they're not human, the fact that a human was able to pretty much hold their own against this vamp, and this is a significant showdown between these two characters, that didn't really fly with me. And then later you find out what really happened during this altercation, and I was like, okay, well, that I have a bit of an issue with that as well, because number one, you're dealing with a vamp. They're not exactly like a normal individual. I know that sounds super vague, but I don't want to spoil it for you, honestly. Despite these issues, I still do suggest this film, especially if you like vamp movies like I do. And I feel like this is a very solid entry into this type of genre. So bear in mind that any negatives I have are pretty minor compared to the positives that go along with this. There is also one of the final moments in the movie where there is a gunfight that happens. Again, the numbers are not on the side of a particular person. So the fact that this gunfight carried out the way that it did, I find extremely implausible. Something I completely forgot to mention in my video review was there's a moment at the end where the big bad is doing a villain monologue, as we're all familiar with, and a character happens to position themselves in a specific place in relation to the baddie and another person, without, mind you, being spotted by an entire group of vampires that is right there in full view. So that was another shaky problem with the writing for me, and I just wanted to mention it. Okay, back to the video. These are pretty much all of the cons I can think of at this point. I rated this movie 4 out of 5 stars. It's possible that if I rewatch it, it will nudge down a little bit more because those things that I have talked about might bother me more upon a rewatch. I don't know. Maybe they won't. I will very likely watch this again. I feel like the audience that I was with, now I did go see this at a 3:30 showtime on Thursday afternoon, so the theater was not packed. But the audience that I was with seemed very engaged with the story, engaged almost in a comical sense. Not that I'm making fun of them in any way. I just thought some of their reactions were pretty funny. There were some moments that were a bit comedic given the situation and the things that were said in particular moments. There was also a scene towards the beginning, and this has been something that was played in the trailer because I did recognize this line. One of the characters tells another character, "You keep dancing with the devil, one day it's going to follow you home." I like that quote, number one. I agree with it. I think that's it. It's sound advice. But one of the ladies in the audience was like, uh-huh. I just thought that was funny. don't know, that tickled me. It tickled me. Overall, it was an enjoyable viewing experience. I will very likely be adding this to my collection, physical and or digital, and I do recommend you guys checking it out. If you like Ryan Coogler, if you like Michael B. Jordan, if you like vampire stuff, if you like period piece stuff, this is a bunch of things all rolled into one. I will forewarn you in case you have an issue with violence and sex. There are multiple instances of gore and sex scenes. It's not super, super explicit, but it's definitely there, just as a forewarning. But I think knowing that this is rated R gives you an idea that this is not going to be something for children. Anyway, I don't think I have anything else to say for now about Sinners. If you guys check it out, let me know what you think. And I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up for now. See you later.